But this is a stress test that will tell you a lot about smart limit. And I'm basically limiting something like 7 dB, okay? Listen to how it sounds.
Karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Blocky fold, lock and load. It's off at the top of your dome like artichokes.
If I do the exact same with smart limit,
karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Blocky fold, lock and
attack. Here is where the confusion starts for many people. So this attack sets the release time, is a delay of the smooth release. You guys asked me to review this one. I had it for a while. You saw the clips on IG probably. I use it on the field for a while. Sonible Smart Limit. Is this the new king of mastering limiters? Let's find out. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixBest TV. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, please check the info box down below for my mixing courses on Pro Mix Academy, free plugin special discounts and offers. And if you want to support the channel, but most important, if you really want to learn how to mix and master professionally, click the join button down here, become a MixBest TV member and access the already big and always growing library of full mixing courses, start to finish. Mastering courses on so many different genres, special videos, and a lot more. And if you missed the biggest event of the year on the channel going on right now, remix contest for my artist Bella Kelly's latest single Heartbreak Motel is up and running with over $30,000 in prizes between hardware and plugins. Let's get to the video. All right, new Sonible Smart Limit. Is this all hype of the new product or is actually the real deal? There's a bunch of video I think about this plugin out there because everybody jumped on it the same day that it came out. I actually wanted to wait and get familiar with it, get to know it, and actually try and use it on real work for client before making a video, because this is a pretty deep plugin. Usually mastering limiters don't have that much in them. They're not that complicated, but this one has a pretty hefty amount of features and it's, like I said, a pretty deep plugin. Here I will tell you what I like about this plugin and what I don't necessarily like about it. But one thing that I can say right off the bat is this plugin is pretty impressive and it might actually be the new king of mastering limiters. Let's take a look. We have the Sonible signature green and black GUI, which is resizable, which is always useful. I particularly like to have the ceiling and the gain slider up here, and the fact that I have the attack and release controls right next to it. This limiter is definitely packed with features, especially the loudness monitoring panel here that you can close and open. We have our loudness meter here on the vertical line on the left. We have the dynamic metering down at the bottom in gray, and your target here, which changes according to your gain and to the loudness of the material. Then here at the top you have all the preset targets for LUFS, for iTunes, Spotify, Deezer, and so on. Now this is the first thing that I don't necessarily like. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have them for the people that want to use these reference LUFS levels, but you know what I think about the guidelines LUFS for streaming. I personally think it's bullshit, and so do a lot of other engineers. But if you want to sit here and print a master for each platform, you can do it, and you have all the reference here. So you can print a master for Amazon Music, one for iTunes, one for YouTube, one for Tidal, and so on. I think the broadcast presets are more useful, like EBU R128, HBO, Netflix, and so on. The music part, like YouTube, and then we have Spotify, and then Spotify Loud, which I don't know really what that's supposed to be, are pretty useless if you ask me. Just, you know, again, because you know what I think about that. But anyway, they are there. If you want to use them, use them. It's easy enough to change your LUFS level target. Just click on it and raise it to -10, -9, -7, whatever value you want to use, and you can see the green bar changes as you change the LUFS. You also have two histograms. One is for loudness, one is for dynamic, that you can keep an eye on if you want. Here at the top you also have your real-time reading, which, by the way, very cool, update when you change parameter, and they update in real time, meaning even the long-term reading, like the integrated LUFS, change in real time, and they are accurate as you change parameter, so you don't have to replay the track with the new settings and wait for the metering to reread the long term, which is pretty cool. You have LUFS, loudness range, dynamic, gain reduction, and true peak value. You have integrated, short-term, and momentary here. We have the constant gain that auto-compensate for when we push the signal into the limiter and apply more limiting, so it's auto-compensated, and also the delta function, which isolate and let us hear what the actual limiter is doing. So we can keep an eye on distortion and artifacts, which is also mirrored, so to speak, here in this distortion monitoring graphics, all right, at the bottom. Let me push this for a second, which shows us the distortion. Right now, there's not even that much, but this is one thing that I think is very, very useful, and I wish Sonible would give us the option to make this like either full screen or bigger, maybe in a different window, or make this one the same size as the plugin momentarily, so we can keep an eye on the distortion monitoring, because I think this is a pretty cool function to have. I don't think any other limiter has it, and it's kind of too tiny. All right, they had a great idea. I wish it was implemented a little better. Here at the top, we have different presets, so to speak: universal, speech, acoustic, classic, country, and so on. Now, when we select one of these profiles and play the material, the plugin analyzes the content and also will unlock these 4 controls here at the bottom: style, saturation, balance, and bass control, which I will talk about it in a minute. But let's actually start using the plugin, and I will use a song that I mastered a few weeks ago. It's called Black Hole by Phase feat. Nasal, produced by Emir, and this is the track.
Karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Rocky fold, lock and load. It's off at the top of your dome like artichokes. These artichoke can't stand this kind of smoke. Adios. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado. I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido. I'm a capo de tutti capi. You are now on your face. Let's put the heat on.
All right, this track was mastered with a combination of plugins. You can see it on my screen and my analog gear. We have the NEVs on it, we have the SSL, we have the SPL, we have the Spacecraft, NG mastering compressor, I think API, and also Mag EQ and some other stuff. This will probably be a new mastering course for members only, but let's focus on Smart Limit. And you can see for this track, I've been very conservative. I didn't need and didn't want to push this track to crazy loud levels. In fact, I'm doing 1.5 dB of gain reduction here. And we are about -6 and -7 short term. This is a slow pace song, so measurements are never gonna be that high. But one thing that will set the tone for, again, how good this plugin is a complete stress test. So this is Ozone Maximizer, which was often my very, very final limiter for mastering. But this is a stress test that will tell you a lot about Smart Limit. So with Ozone and all the other limiters will pretty much do the same. I'm pushing the threshold to -15 dB, and I'm basically limiting something like 7 dB, okay? Listen to how it sounds.
Karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Rocky fold, lock and load. It's off at the top of your dome like artichokes. These artichoke can't stand this kind of smoke.
There's obvious distortion. We are losing a lot of low end, and again, there's pretty obvious distortion. If I do the exact same with Smart Limit,
karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Rocky fold, lock and load. It's off at the top of your dome like artichokes. These artichoke can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado. I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido. I'm a capo de tutti capi. You are now on your face. Let's put the heat on. These weak mouths with them key rhymes. Beat on these peons. Still I see them holding up peace signs. Y'all better be wise and behave, cause these guys will be keeping.
And I can do the same with, let's say, Stealth Limiter, which is another great limiter that I like and use. If we do the same and we push the input to 15 dB.
Karate blows like Johnny Bones. They be rushing to get your body home. Rocky fold, lock and load. It's off at the top of your dome like artichokes. These artichoke can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado. I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to.
So you hear the difference. The Smart Limit here is undoubtedly superior. It's cleaner, it loses less low end, given the fact that I'm absolutely mangling this track right now, because I'm limiting close to 10 dB of gain reduction, so nobody will ever go even close to that. This is on purpose, a stress test to hear the limit and what are the artifacts of something crazy like this. And it's easier to hear the differences, okay? But the difference is pretty obvious. The smart limit is just cleaner and has less distortion. Now for this specific track, I loaded the hip hop contemporary profile, and I can do it again. And you can play the song and it analyzes the material like we said and unlock the controls at the bottom. Now, some of these controls I like, some I don't. First thing that you need to pay attention to. Now, when you load a profile, depending on what selected target you have, it will set your gain, your attack and release, and your limit, which is set by default at -1. I don't like it. I just push it to -0 because it actually translates in minus, let me play it for you, in -0.1. And if you want to be conservative and you're worried about true peak, you can lower it a little bit, but -1 is definitely too much in my opinion. It also sets your attack, your gain, and release. Now, one thing about the attack and release. The auto release, it actually works really, really well. This is one of the very few cases in which I found that the auto release is actually very musical. It doesn't eat up too much loudness because that's the point. Usually auto releases tend to be slower and cleaner, but they also are kind of sluggish and they eat up perceived loudness, okay? Let me give you an example. If I set the release all the way slow,
can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo.
A faster release will sound louder, of course, at the expenses of distortion. But here, even a very slow release settings, this limiter is very, very clean and probably cleaner than any other limiter out there. Now, attack. Here is where the confusion starts for many people, and I've seen this so many times. Brick wall limiters, so mastering limiters like this one, like Ozone, like L2, they don't have an attack time. The attack time is instantaneous. That's why they are also called look-ahead limiters. One of the differences between limiters and compressors, they don't have an attack time. This attack, and you can read it in the tips, set the time after which the smooth release of the gain reduction sets in, not how long the limiter takes to actually limit the material. So this attack, it sets the release time, is a delay of the smooth release, which is the second release of the limiter. So don't look at that as you would look at the attack time of a compressor, because that's a mistake, okay? And in this case, long attack time will give you more perceived loudness at the expenses of distortion. And on this track, I was doing 1.5 decibel of gain reduction, which is super conservative, but I could double that. All right, let me try actually.
And behave, cause these guys would be keeping stinging your retards like fucking with a beehive. You never be able to see, how can y'all deny? Shit, I was rhyming the beats when y'all were like me.
I'm compressing double right now, -3, and it would be totally acceptable. There's no really discernible distortion, and that says a lot on a track that is bass heavy like this one. The reason because I didn't push it is because I actually like that 808 and kick to be more dynamic. I didn't need crazy loud here. I actually felt like this track was sounding better by breathing a little more, because you can hear there's no distortion.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stock.
But the dynamic is choked too much, even if it's, 1.5 dB more than I was compressing, limiting before. Now on the 4 controls here at the bottom, which actually they were on when I did not use them in the actual mix, so I should have put them back where they were, but we have a style which is soft or hard. This could be compared basically to the various modes, for example on Ozone, the classic, the modern, or the balance, the pumping, the crisp, or for example on Pro L2, the modern, transparent, punchy, dynamic, and so on. Okay, only in this case we have a slider so we can blend between these styles, so to speak. The soft is gonna be, again, cleaner at the expenses of the perceived loudness. Hard is gonna be more hard clipping and fast limiting, fast release, more nervous behavior, but it's a style that goes well, for example, with hip hop, with metal, with stuff like that. For a ballad or something more mellow, you wanna stay on the soft classical music. This is, by the way, amazing for classical music and acoustic music because of that. So I really like this control. I tend to prefer, like I said, the hard settings, but always conservative, between 0 and 20 and something like that. Because if you go, let me try again, stress test. Let's bring it up.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo, do tutti capi. You and I, yo, face, let's put the heat on. These weak mouths, put them key props. Beat on these peons, till I see him holding a piece.
Okay, the hard style is definitely more punchy, more up in your face, totally fitting this track in particular. And while the soft is really soft, and it kind of softened the material, which sometimes it can be a good pre-processing. Let's say you have a track that is a little too harsh or a little too pointy in the high end. You could open 2 instances of this and process the first one with a softer style, just half a dB, just to give that curve and that softness, and then go a little more towards the hard style to do more limiting. So this is, I find, an extremely useful and well implemented function. Then we have the saturation. Now, I'm personally not a fan of this one because it's mastering. Mastering is about precision, and as a mastering engineer, I want to pick my saturators, especially because I have, the luck of having a lot of hardware and analog gear specifically for each track, and each track changes and the amount changes and the tone changes, and maybe I use 2 or 3. This is a generic saturator which can be useful. Some other limiters have this one in them. I can think of Sonox, for example, limiter that has the enhancement. This, I find, it's okay, it's useful. I mean, I actually use it. I don't think I've ever used it more than 5 or 6%. By the way, since I had this plugin, I use it in all my mastering. So that also says a lot about what I think about this plugin. I think we can give it a shot.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido.
So you hear, the thing that it doesn't convince me about this saturation is saturation usually increases the perceived loudness quite a bit, okay? While it keeps the same nominal level, and in some cases, it reduces it. For example, if I turn on my vintage drive, all right? Give it a listen.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo, do tutti capi. You and I.
Okay, so this is what I expect from saturation, especially when I use it in mastering. I want very, very little raise in nominal level and quite some difference in perceived loudness. I find that this one doesn't really increase the perceived loudness, is more of a color knob, which is useful, absolutely useful.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo, do tutti.
Okay, even going to 50%, it doesn't really increases the perceived loudness. Even our loudness meter, it doesn't move. So when you use this one, pay attention, is to me just a color tone, okay? If a mix is a little too clean, but it doesn't really do what I expect from saturation in that regard, okay? That's just me. Then we have the balance knob, which is probably my least favorite control. Is supposed to improve the spectral balance and tame resonances to give your track a final subtle polish. I've never found use for this one. And maybe again, because I give the final polish to my songs with other tools, but I tried it several times. I don't know, it's kind of random to me, and let's try it.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido.
In this case, it actually seems like to boost the 7-800, and it has this kind of honky, low honky kind of tone to it. So I'm not exactly sure what it does or what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to, again, find resonances and improve the spectral balance. I never found a track where I could benefit from it. So for what it's worth. And then we have the bass control, which is, again, a boost on the low end, basically. That's what it is. This one, again, I'm not a fan of it. I think the boost, the corner frequency is too high. Let's hear it.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a cop.
You hear? It kind of gets into mud area. And I'm exaggerating because, again, it's very subtle in the end. But when I think about bass enhancement like this, I would think something like a very deep, weighty low end. Like, for example, let me try to do it with a SPL.
Can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo, the tutti capi. You are now on your face. Let's put the heat on these weak mouths, put them heat.
Now the track was already mastered, so it doesn't need another 2 dB and a half of 44 hertz. But you know what I mean. For bass enhancement, if someone does home mastering and doesn't have all the EQ that I have, I would want that bass enhancement to be a lot lower and a lot more focused than what appears to be here. With that said, I absolutely love this limiter. Of course, this is not my only stage of limiting. I use several stages of limiting, which includes also clipping my converter and all that. But it's an extremely clean limiter that can take a lot of abuse. As far as perceived loudness is not the more aggressive. There are others that are more aggressive, for example, Ozone in transit mode, or Sonox is the most aggressive of all of them. But still, I think Smart Limit is a pretty big jump in the plugin world. It's definitely an evolution compared to anything else that is out there right now, and arguably is the more balanced and comprehensive limiter that is out there right now. At the time of this video, this plugin is on sale 50% off, only $75, which is an absolute steal. I'll put the link in the info box down below with all the other links, how to enter the remix contest and all that. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. If you like the video, please don't forget to leave a like, click the join button, become a MixQuest TV member. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.
Hands on my neck, hands grip my throat. Lift me up.